Hi, Shariah. How you doing? All right, got your work up. Thank you for this written summary of your experience in assembling the composition here. So thank you for that. And let's go ahead. I've got this up, and I noticed that you had submitted a bunch of PNGs, or I'm sorry, JPEGs, and there's four of them, one, two, three, four, five of them, but they all seem to be the same. So I'm just wondering if I'm missing something, because I opened all of these and they're all pretty much the same file, I think, unless there's something I'm not seeing. So perhaps you can clarify that. But at any rate, let's go and take a look. I think it's a good ad. I think this is really interesting. I think one of the most important things here is the fact that um, uh, your image adjustments are done very well. The foreground, the main image itself, you've really done a good job preserving detail in all areas of the image. So I think that's really interesting. This is so fun. I love this, and I'll talk about that little sliver right there in a second. But in general, I think that it's a good ad. I think it works. Little bit we've got some issues with typography at the bottom here, and we'll talk about that in a second. All right, now let's go ahead and start from the top, literally from the top, meaning at the top of the page, and let's talk about typography. Escape reality and fall into paradise. So this, I think, is a little unusual. It makes the eye jump around the page. So we go escape reality, and then we're over here, then we jump over here. So we kind of got this angular thing going on, but we got this stair-stepping thing, and I don't think it's the most comfortable situation for the headline. My recommendation is this, let's say escape reality, and then right underneath it, um, and fall into paradise. So this is going to end up being Arial bold, and then and fall into paradise is going to be Arial bold italic. Forget the ellipsis, just escape reality and fall into paradise. Okay, now watch the point size. The headline, of course, should be larger than the subhead, and that points to hierarchy. Okay, escape reality and fall into paradise. Now, at that point, I think that when we move down the page, and let's finish on typography. So we've got some really uncomfortable things happening at the bottom of the page in terms of typography class, and in terms of typography, and I realize this isn't a typography class, but nonetheless, I think I would be remiss if I were not to mention these inconsistencies. The main thing is that if you take a look at the leading and the kerning in this paragraph here, leading being the space between lines, kerning being the space between letters, it's all really tight and really compact, probably too much so. I think this is really, really dense, densely packed type. I would increase the tracking, and that's the space between all letters in a line, and the leading, the space between lines. I would increase both just a little bit. And on this side, though, on the other hand, is just a really inconsistent type presentation. So you have this tightly packed type, and then over here, you're much looser. Look at that big, I think this is way too far between lines, distance between lines. So this is too dense and this is too loose. So somewhere in the middle, I think would be good. Okay, then what I would recommend is we take it's a good choice placing the logo on this side of the composition. And I say that because it counterbalances the weight of the girl in the tent. So I think that was a wise choice. I don't think it would work placing the logo on the lower right-hand side, although that is a great exit strategy for a magazine ad. It's just going to pull the composition out of balance. It's going to be too heavy to the right based on the visual density of the logo and this image right here. Okay. But I would recommend this. This is really unusual negative space right here too. So what I would do is I would take 716 Amethyst Bay, and I would reduce the space in between. That's again, that's leading. I left align that and then follow your margin right down there. Then I would reduce the size of the logo and place it so that it's the bottom of the logo or the top of the logo is aligned with something. So in other words, if this is the bottom, you take that bottom of that baseline of the and just make sure that that's in alignment with the bottom of this. Things should always align in composition. Something should always be in alignment with something else. And that's a broad statement, but one that is very, very true. Okay, now as far as problems. Oh, at the bottom of the page, consider trying to find a really screened back color that you can replace this gray. I think it's not pure white, so it's not completely stark, but I just think it's a little drab down there. So my recommendation is to take a color, maybe this color, from the amethyst, add teal color from the amethyst, maybe this purple, and reduce its value, reduce the value of that parent hue. So you're going to reduce the values, the saturation, so that it's a really screened back version, and place it in there. So you don't want it to be too, you don't want it to have next to zero visual weight. So you really want it to be toned back. Okay, now problems with the file. Oh, drop shadow. I don't think you need it. I really don't. I think it creates too much separation from the background, and what it tends to do is it tends to advance this, and then we kind of move back in the field of depth to where this seems to be deeper in the composition than this. And it's a really great typographic technique, but it's one that we certainly don't need here. I think that configuration I described earlier with the type will work just fine. Don't forget headline, Arial bold, subhead, Arial bold, italic. This thing right here. Now, I'm going to do something. I'm going to open up another image, and this is one of your classmates' images. Now, this was submitted to for critique, so this is public forum right here. So there's no privacy issues associated with this. This was posted to a public forum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this for an example. This is Colson's file. Thank you, Colson. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come up to the word Illustrator. I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to come down to Export. Okay, now when we come down to export, I have a feeling you said export for screens, or I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm going to cancel that, and I have a feeling that you chose export as, and then selected JPEG. That is kind of, that's a little buggy. I think it's a buggy way to work. I've noticed this before. I want you to try this. I want you to go to File, Export, only this time go to Save for Web, Legacy, okay? Go to Save for Web, and this dialog box is going to open. I'm going to pull this down into the window so you can see it. And what I want is right up here. Forget the image for now, but I'm just going to pull this right up there. And I think, boy, I'm hoping you can see this, because now I'm looking at the recording and I'm not sure. It's not falling within the recording window. So this is going to be unusual. I think I may have just found a bug in my recording software. At any rate, so save for web, then save it as a JPEG from there, and go ahead and save it as a high quality or a medium, at least probably you don't have to go very high or maximum, just go high quality. And that should rectify that. Once you go ahead and click that save button, it should render itself out without that little sliver. Try it. Let me know how that works. Really do it. Really try it. Shoot me a quick email, because I'm really super interested to see if that is one of those bugs. And if you didn't happen to see that in the recording, then I found indeed another bug, and just follow the verbal prompts. Okay. Nice work. Thanks so much for submitting your work and letting us look at it and critique it. And from here, I'll go ahead and make one other change real quick. Okay, now, if you notice, did you ever notice these are barbed wire on top of the tree up there? And that's probably something that doesn't loan itself well to the rest, relaxation, paradise thing that we're talking about. And I understand they just put it up there so people don't climb on that tree and break it, right? But nonetheless, we see barbed wire, we immediately think of the negative connotations associated with that. You could use the clone tool to clone that out. It's going to be really easy, because there's nothing in the background impeding that. So just take a look in the book, or do a quick Google search on cloning, or using clone stamp, or replacing the background, or something like that. Correction tools in Photoshop. And if you can't find anything, let me know, and I'll be glad to send you a resource. But it's the clone stamp, and you just want to replace these barbed wires with the sky that's behind it. It's simple to do. You're going to love that tool anyway. So now's a great time to practice, right? Questions, comments, concerns, anything, let me know. By the way, I'd like to see these changes made for your final magazine ad, which in turn could affect the way that you compose and construct your banner ad. So try to get these changes out of the way before you really get to work on the banner ad. Okay, questions, comments, concerns, anything at all. If you want to make these changes, resubmit. I'll be glad to make further comments. All right, great job. Thank you.